everyone, this is Muttuminal from the Department of Agricultural Engineering. I am very happy to meet you all for this new semester. And for this semester, I am going to handle the subject Irrigation and Drainage Engineering. And this is a subject which is coming for the third year students under the Department of Agricultural Engineering. Under this subject, the first unit covers soil water tension and measurement of soil water. Here, it will be really important for us to know why the irrigation engineering is really necessary for the agriculture engineer, and also what is the relationship between the soil water tension and the soil growth. So mainly we have to know something about the interrelated activities of crop yield depending over the soil water. This is where we can be clarified and enriched with knowledge why this soil water is really necessary and how the water capillarity depends upon and how it is enriched and however we are going to use it. So at this today's topic, we are going to see something about rooting characteristics and soil water tension and soil water stress. So as of today, we'll try to cover the basic topic which is necessary for us to know why this is necessary under irrigation. Right. What is irrigation? As we do know that irrigation is nothing but watering of plants, and this water leads to the growth of crop in the field, right? Whenever the water quantity exceeds, that doesn't mean that even though we have over irrigated, the crop yield will also get increased, because only certain limit of water will be absorbed by the plant, and if that level of water gets exceeded, it will spoil the growth and also it will spoil the crop. This is what happens. So everything has to be given in a proper way. As we all know, அளவுக்கு மிஞ்சினால் அமிர்தமும் நஞ்சு. So that is how irrigation also plays a major role in agriculture. So agriculture is mainly an application technique of water which we ensure to maintain the soil moisture for good plant growth. So according to the season, we have to supplement the water level, and this is called as supplemental irrigation. This was usually practiced at North Dakota because it augments the rainfall that occurs prior to and during the growing season. This irrigation is usually provided for full season agronomic and high value specialty crops to provide a dependable yield. So we are saying that the water has been absorbed by the plant from the soil moisture, right? So we have to know that how that plant gets water from soil. So we do know that water is essential for a plant growth, and also without the enough water, normal plant functions will be disturbed and the plant gradually wilts. Plants are most susceptible to damage from water deficiency during the vegetative stages, and also it is very sensitive to salinity, so we have to maintain the nature of the water. Most of the water that enters the plant roots does not stay in the plant. Less than 1% of the water is withdrawn by the plant, and also the rest of the water moves to the leaf surfaces, which will be assimilated by the plant for the purpose of photosynthesis. So whenever it transpires, it the water gets evaporated to the atmosphere, and also the rate at which the plant takes up water is usually controlled by its physical characteristics, and also the water moves from the soil into the root through the stem and into the leaf through the leaf stomata, from which it moves from a lower water tension to the higher water tension. That means that from the root to the top tip of the plant. So that is what we here say it as the movement of water takes place from the lower part to the upper part. That means that lower water tension to a higher water tension. Wherever the movement is capable, it means that there is some tension is created, and that tension we are quoting it as a water tension. The water tension of the air is usually determined for certain relative humidity, and always it is greater than the water tension in the soil. So obviously it means that than soil, the water tension has to be more in air. So this is the illustration of the soil and the water interaction. The energy usually transfers from the bottom part to the upper part, as I have said at the previous slide itself. As you guys can see in the picture, that soil water is always illuminated or shown in negative manner, because the energy differentiations are denoted with the help of bars, and the energy drives that water movement from the soil to the roots, and from the root to the stalk, into the leaf and out into the atmosphere. This makes the water moves from a less negative soil moisture tension to a more negative tension in the atmosphere. And during this course, the soil water availability will be split up into the four levels: 40% of the water from the top quarter, and 30% from the second quarter, 20% from the third quarter, and the 10% from the bottom of the root zone. So usually the soil water level will be split up into these four levels. That doesn't mean that all the 100% of the water which is available at the soil will be observed, because the soil water capacity is only, for example, if I'm going to pour a water of 1 gram, and in that 1 gram, 50 milligram is the 100 percentage of water that could be capable of absorbing by the soil. So that 50 percentage of the water will be split up into 40%, 30%, 20%, and 10%. That will make up to the 100% of utilization, and the remaining 50% of the water will be moved towards the water table in order to enrich the groundwater. So this is what happens everywhere. So the soil water that is available for the root will be split up into half, and at that 1 gram, 50 milligrams will be used by us, and the remaining 50 grams will be transferred to the ground. Okay, so this is how the plants get water from soil. So this is the interaction between the soil and water. Since usually the soil is a medium that stores and moves the water, and also the cubic foot of typical silt loam topsoil were separated into component parts. That means that we have seen several areas that we are filtering the water in order to remove the impurities, right? Those filtering technique have been utilized by us from these kinds of naturally available infractions. So every layer consists of certain topsoil, silt loam, everything will be considered. So this water gets settled down at each layer, and that water will be separated into several component parts. 45% of the volume would be the mineral water, which will be settled as a soil particles under the soil particles, and the organic residue will be occupied about 5% of the volume, and the rest would be a pore space. The pore space is the voids between soil particles and is occupied by air or water. This is what happens at the interaction between soil and water. So this is the illustration of interaction. That is how does it the water gets moved. I have said initially that 50% of the water will be accumulated for root zone, and remaining 50 waters will be capable of moving towards a water table. So that movement is capable of only with the help of two forces. One is the gravitational force, and the other one is the capillary force. According to these kinds of forces, we could say that the gravitational water and capillary water occurs. The gravitational water is nothing but usually the pore spaces are filled with the water more than their capillary capacity, and the excess water gets drained downward, and this capillary water is held in the pore space against the force of gravity, that is we called as capillary water. So this is what I have prepared for today's basic session. We'll continue the remaining interaction of soil and water at the next class. Thank you.